right. Hello everybody. I think I can see myself as live now. I am going to pop out the chat so that I would be able to see any comments that come to me while I'm streaming. I had scheduled this stream for 5 p.m. Pacific, and I'll be honest, I did a whole stream and I realized it didn't actually stream because I haven't done this in a while. I didn't have all the moving parts connected correctly, and I was over here crafting and streaming all by myself, talking to nobody. But I think we are good to go. I see that I have myself on there. There is a slight delay. The comments are open, so you can drop me a comment if you're watching. Let me know where you're watching from, what time it is in your neck of the woods, and all of that good stuff. And then we can get to the crafting. So, hello everybody. Welcome to Crafty Soup. My name is Misty. I did a whole hour live stream without it actually streaming, so we're gonna have take 2 tonight. I haven't done this in a while, and that's why it all went wrong. It moved up to a new space from the basement. In the basement, I couldn't do live audio because of the furnace and because my husband's office is down there and I couldn't catch any of his work calls on audio. And so it just made it really difficult. Even though I tried, I just couldn't make it work. And now I'm upstairs in a new space, and we had to reorg some Wi-Fi situation up here because that wasn't working well. But now everything's working. I'm up, I'm streaming. I see a thumbs up. My husband is there to give me support because I went out and said I did a whole hour and it didn't go. So thank you for giving me that thumbs up. I appreciate it. And I'll be coming to eat my dinner in about another hour. All right, I am gonna try again. But since I had already done a project with myself, I will go ahead and show you what I did. Let me change my setting so that you can see my desk. So I do this Mystery Box Makes series about once a month where I have a mystery box of supplies that I pull 3 items out of and I set to work making a project. Just an hour ago, I got this embossing folder that is really sunflowers. I got these metal charms from Tim Holtz, and I used the backside as a stamp to emboss the greeting Merry Christmas. It isn't perfect, but we made it work because it's a mystery box. You don't know what you're gonna get. I had intended to make a wreath out of these ginkgo leaves, which was it's a hot foil plate, but I used it in the Better Press system. And I was going to make a wreath, but then I ended up making what is that called? It hangs over you at Christmas and people can, mistletoe. I knew it would come to me. Mistletoe and the Merry Christmas, and I used a red and yellow color scheme to make the background look more like poinsettias for a Christmas theme. So that's how I spent my last hour all by myself, streaming to nobody in the world. I'm going to set all of this stuff aside and we are going to do it again. I'm going to do it again and you're going to do it with me for the first time. All right. So this is my mystery box, and let me send you over here. This is my picker wheel. I have the mystery box, but I also have a set of mystery stencils and a set of mystery papers. The papers are all from Simple Stories, so they're semi-mystery papers. I'm going to spin this wheel, and I've done this once already, so forgive me if I feel a little rushed, but I would like to get to the crafting again with people this time. And I know this was a very last minute. Okay, so the first item we're going to pull out of this big box. I use this wheel to help me choose between the box, the stencils, and the paper. And I'd gotten 3 things out of the box this last time, so we'll see what happens this time. Looks like we're going to get another item out of the big box, and I prefer that. Actually, I'm finding that I'm not all that excited with the stencils and the paper like I thought I would be. So I'm happy to get 2 items so far out of the big box, and we'll do it one more time. And all right, we're gonna be 3 items out of the big box. That works for me. That works for me. All right, let's come back over to my desk. Okay, so this is my box from Simon Says Stamp, and in the fall / early winter, towards Thanksgiving and Christmas here in North America, United States, they offer these mystery boxes for a very deep discount. These things are packed full of who knows what, and I've had some interesting things come out of this box, but I pull out 3 items and put them to use on one crafty project, often scrapbook layout or a card, and never know what you're gonna get and what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna start pulling and we'll see what we get. Yes, I can feel these things, but I try to just grab the first thing off the top of the box. And it is an embossing folder. Oh, it is trees. Oh, you guys, that is gorgeous. Oh, I am loving that. Okay, I just did a Christmas card because I had those products, but let's see what's going to happen here, because that embossing folder totally says Christmas to me. Okay, I feel some really thin, plasticky something. It's a cloud stencil. Oh, those go really well together. Sometimes I like the really hard things because you got to think outside of the box, but sometimes it's nice when they all fit. So here's something else. It's another background, and this one looks like Christmas ornaments. Am I gonna do another Christmas card, you guys? Let's, oh, what do I want to do? I have an idea. Okay, let's do it. All right, I am going to pull out many of the same supplies that I just pulled out for the last version. So this says Dazzling Ornament Plate. So this must be a die and not an embossing folder. See, I wasn't paying close enough attention. Yes, indeed, we have a die. So I want to cut some of these out to see what they look like, and then we might ink those up and use them as an accent on the background of our trees. And we'll do some inking with the trees and some clouds, and we'll get this going on. So if anybody is here, I know this was totally last minute for me and for you, and then it didn't work, but if you're catching this on replay, thank you for being here. If you're live or you pop in live at some point, thank you for being here. I do appreciate your time. I know I wasn't expecting to do this as much tonight, and then I didn't say anything to anybody, so nobody else knew I was going to be here. So we might be a small group tonight, and that is okay, because the lovely thing is replay exists, so we can do that. I'm going to go ahead and use this same cream paper that I used for take 1, and we'll go ahead and get going with the cream paper for take 2. I want to do this one first so that I can see if maybe I can fussy cut out this shape, and then we can maybe ink this up and zhuzh it up with some bling of some sort. Maybe I'll use a glossy accent to add some shine to it so it looks more like an ornament and less like just a plain thing in the background. I am going to put a little bit of tape on here so that it will stay mostly aligned as I run this through the machine. I know I'm going to cut it apart, but in case I decide not to, this will give me options if I have it lined up correctly. In the last live stream, I threw everything aside as I was done using it, and now I have lost track of my die plates. They have to be here somewhere. Honestly, they really do have to be here somewhere. Well, this is not the problem I expected to have tonight. Wonder if I closed them up in some drawer somewhere. Set them way off to the side somewhere. All right, I am gonna use this one instead because I did use this one on the last take. This is a Gina K machine and I am not as familiar with it. So hopefully I can get the sandwich right. Gotta grab the plates for this one. And so this is nice because instead of changing up all the parts and pieces of the sandwich, all you have to do is change up the dial. So I'm going to set it to die cut, and then this second dial, I know you can't see me, the second dial down here adjusts the tension so it can add more pressure without adding shims if it's not die cutting cleanly. I don't know what I have it set at. I think I'm just gonna, you have to push it and turn it. Okay, I think I'm just gonna set it right in the middle. I think this goes down on that and then this goes on top, which is not quite how I'm used to die cutting. I'm hoping I have enough distance. That might be a little too tight. I hope I have enough distance between my monitor because my monitor is right in front of me so I can see y'all. And yes, that will come out. Okay, let's check. Oh, I thought it was too tight, but actually it did not cut all the way. So that is a good reason to have this tape because I can just snap it back into place. And then try it again. Only this time I'm gonna make it tighter. So some plates are meant to emboss and not necessarily cut. Dazzling ornament plate, craft die. It doesn't talk about embossing rather than cutting. It did feel awfully thick going through my machine, and that still feels too thick, so let's try that. Seems like it's doing okay. We'll see what we've got. Okay. It did not cut all the way. We've got a couple of them. Okay, I'm not quite sure what is happening because, like I said, I'm very new to this machine. It is set on die cut and it is set on a little more pressure. Let's see. Set upside down. This is the beauty of being live, isn't it? Things aren't working at all tonight. Oh, that stuff usually stresses me out quite a lot. I am trying not to feel stressed out because hopefully if I can get this working, you know, maybe turning it at an angle, because sometimes the die machines don't like hitting a sudden edge. It just does better at an angle. So it goes in that way. Make it a little tighter. Let's see how we're doing. Hopefully that's not wiggling. It's wiggling my screen because it's attached to the desk, but hopefully it's not wiggling you guys too much. All right, that is better. Not all the way there. Okay, I have no idea what's going on. If only I knew where my other, you know what? Okay, I'm gonna try one more time and then I'm gonna give up on this and fussy cut it and we'll move on. But if I give this one more try with my backup cutting plates and sending it through. What's nice about these dies is that you can lock them back into place like a puzzle and try again. So if you're not getting a good cut with whatever you're doing, you can just try it again. And I'm going to, let's see, I'm gonna put that on there, and that, and oh friends, my plates were in the back of my machine because I had cut out, and that explains. I had cut out some parts for the other project and I didn't even use them. All right, now we're rocking and rolling. Let's get back to the sandwich that I know so that I can have some success. Okay, sandwich, sandwich, sandwich. I don't know if I'll use that. I'll go ahead and stick the shim in there. And my other shim. That way it's gonna cut. When in doubt, shim it out. Alright. Let's send it through. Come on. Sounds like it's working. And shim, shim, shim. And I think I want to say that it worked this time. I want to say that it worked this time, but I can't. Okay. I have got one. So maybe I am just wrong, and maybe this is not supposed to die cut. Maybe it is just supposed to emboss, and I'm pushing it to the limits. That is something that I have never experienced before. See, now some of them are coming out. Okay, I'm going to, I've got one good one. I've got one good one. So if I feel like I need more, I will fussy cut out a couple of more. And we're gonna set all of, I might want that. Let's see. We'll just leave those off to the side because those are partials. Okay, what am I going to do with this ornament? That is the question. I'm going to ink it up, but before I get inky, I do want to do my background embossing folder. So these trees are just gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. So let me grab this panel again, and maybe I just want to go ahead and do the technique that I did when I was here all by myself, and that is inking up the embossing folder before we run it through. So I'm going to line up my paper where I think I want that pattern to be, and I'm going to add some tape in here. I really like the Spellbinders Best Ever Craft tape for the die cutting things that I do, because I think it holds up very sturdy. As you can see, I touched it to the back of my hand because it's supposed to be low tack, but I find for the pressure in the die cut machine, it needs to be even lower tack. So I do touch it to the back of my skin for 2 times, and that usually makes the tackiness just right to work with the pressure of the die cut machine so that it won't tear paper. Now I have a little hinge, and then I can ink up my embossing folder, and I'm going to do some blue, some green, and some brown just to get kind of an ombre look and add some color to the background, just to add some zhuzh to this card. So I am going to use powder from Concord and Ninth. I am a big Concord and Ninth fan, so I am going to do that. I'm going to bring out some little blending brushes that I can, or blending foams that I can use with this mini Tim Holtz blending tool, which is new to me, and I just used it tonight and I love it. It is a little inky, so I am going to make sure I'm not getting inky everywhere. So that is my blue. You know what? I really like pistachio, so I'm going to do that. And then a brown. I think I want wheat for that. And I don't have the full size pad. I just have a mini. So that will do. I'm going to pull out 4 blending foams, and these can be washed and reused. I've currently got red and green and stuff going on over there, but I want to make sure that I have clean ones. And then I have a fourth one because I'm going to use them to actually blend in between the rows of color, because if I do it in blue and I put blue on there and then I get it in brown and then stick it back in blue, it can cross-contaminate. And if I go cross-contaminate a darker color into a lighter ink pad, that can be a problem. Going the other way is not as much of a problem, but I want to try and not cross-contaminate because I like the ink pads to be clean and tidy. So I am going to just start, and it's not going to look like much to begin with, especially since I am using lighter colors. And you can also do this with brayer. It's a little bit harder with a brayer to get multiple colors, but you can. Especially there are ink pads that have multiple colors built into them. Not necessarily the exact colors you might want for something like this. So I am liking that I can pick and choose my own colors. I'm going to keep my rag with water over here because I am super messy, and if I don't stay clean in between layers, I will get fingerprints everywhere. Now it is kind of hard to see where that brown is, so I'm going to try and get close to the brown, and then that's why I have a fourth blender to help me kind of get everything definitely touching there in the end. And I could come back with some more brown so you can see the green better. At least I can. Yeah, I can see it on there. Okay. I do wish I had a few more handles, because then I could have different handles for different colors and not have to worry about swapping out my foams. All right. I love this powder color. It is like the perfect sky blue to me. It's it definitely has a winter vibe to it because it's not like a crystal blue of a summer sky, but it's got, I don't know, I want to say gray, but it's not really that gray. It's just right. Okay, I think I've got, oops, I am clumsy. I am clumsy. That is why I want to keep my fingers clean, because I know I will make a mess. All right, I'm going to use this one to just kind of soften those edges, and because it is going to pick up some of that color, I want to not do this too much because it can kind of erase it a bit, and then maybe come back in with that. We'll see. Sometimes you need to run this through the machine a couple of times with this process, but I'm going to only do it once tonight so that we don't take too long. So my hinge allows me to close it down and it'll stay in place where I need it to be. And then my sandwich is just the 3D embossing folder with the bottom plate, and that is the Gemini 2 embossing or die cutting machine, and you can kind of start seeing what's happening. Look at that. Okay, I'm not going to add any more blue or green because I think that's pretty, but I will go ahead and add a little more brown because that was too light for what I want, because I want to get that variety of color. And it was a little bit too light, so let's like really get some color on there. Okay, I'm gonna try and do this a little bit quickly because we don't want to be here all night, especially since if you're just popping in, I had a mistake with my stream and I didn't get it started properly, even though I thought it was going, and I was just sitting here crafting all by myself. All right. Oh, so fold the hinge down first, then close it. Getting ahead of myself. I think I'm going to let it go through. I'm going to add one shim under here and send it through one more time just to get the best pressure and transfer of that ink as I can. The other thing, actually, I'm going to go ahead and try that. The other thing Oh, but you guys, it's looking pretty. I am missing just a little spot. Where is that? Like right in here? So one tip is, if you're going to try this with your embossing folders, if you wash your folder first using a little bit of rubbing alcohol and just a rag, you can clean off any of the manufacturing oils or any other products that you've used with the embossing folder previously, and that will help your ink stick a little bit better. Especially like water and plastic don't mix very well, so when you put a water-based ink on the plastic, it can tend to bead up, and cleaning it with some alcohol first can help that. And I totally inked the wrong part, but that's okay. This is looking good, and I am gonna call it. Okay, I'm gonna give you a closer view of that. Look at how pretty that is. I like it. Okay, so remember I talked about the tape. It is still wanting to stick, so I'm gonna be very, very careful about peeling this off because the pressure is just a lot. I could have tucked it on my hands a couple more times. All right, so I'm going to set this over here because that's part of our mystery ingredient. We've got our other mystery ingredient here. Let's move some of that stuff out of the way. So what I'm going to do next is use some white ink for these clouds, because this is our second mystery product. And can I get it? You know what? I'm just going to rip it, guys. There we go. Trash on the floor. All right, I am going to, that's awfully big. I'm going to use this one. I am going to temporarily tack this down to my surface. And in fact, I am going to, you know what? I'm going to pull out this because the temporary adhesive on glass doesn't clean up very well, and I don't want to sit here and scrub that. So I'm just going to tack it down to my Stampin' Stencil mat, and that actually will hold my stencil in place as well. And then I have this dauber that is already being used with white ink, and so I am going to grab that white ink. And I have a scrapbook.com white ink. I also have a Hero Arts white ink, and they both work great. I had those before Concord and Ninth made their white ink, otherwise I would own that one. But I love Concord and Ninth, but I don't need to buy a third one because I just wanted to compare these two to see which one I liked better. So I'm going to use this dauber. And I'm just kind of using a twisting motion, and I'm being really careful not to come off the edge. And I'm just going to add some white ink in there, and we'll take a look if I lift it without moving it. All right, we've got a cloud over there. Let's get just a tiny edge of cloud off this side. All right, there's that. Because the trees are in the foreground, I don't want to ink the clouds over the trees because that would look awkward. I kind of wanted to get another cloud in. Let me clean off this stencil, and I'm going to use just a little bit of alcohol. White ink is always a pigment ink, and those ones are always harder to clean up. A little bit of rubbing alcohol on your stencil and a good rag and a few swipes, and that should get it cleaned up. Don't use rubbing alcohol on photopolymer, so your stamps, or if you have a photopolymer grip mat, something like that, don't use alcohol in there because that chemistry can damage the photopolymer. But here's what I'm gonna do. I think I might kind of mask off this side of the cloud, and I'm just gonna kind of do my best to make it wisp off into the distance. We'll see if I am successful at that. And I'm just gonna kind of wisp just a little ink wisp off where it's connecting with those trees. It's okay. It's okay. If I had more time, I would take my time and do that a little more carefully, but it's okay. All right. So there is our background. We have used 2 of our products so far. And this one, I want to add more color to because our background is very soft and light and it's going to fade into the background. But if we add more color to this and pop it up on some adhesive, it will come to the foreground and be the star of the show. And you know what? I think I'm going to hang it down this part of the card because I've got that little splotchy there. That is a bit of a mistake. You see that splotchy? I'm going to cover that up. I will get some twine and hang this from some twine and pop it up on some foam. So let's color this up. Do I want to use markers? Do I want to do ink blending? Let's do some ink blending because I already have these sitting here. That one's white. I will go ahead and use what I have on my desk because it's convenient and I don't need to reinvent the wheel. So I have got red and yellow, and then so I could use a different green or I could stick with pistachio. Let's stick with pistachio. Just to kind of tie it into the background for some cohesiveness. If you use colors in the same color family between areas of an image, you're going to do a little bit better. Like this is a very much more muted green than this is. So if I stick with more muted colors, it's going to tie into the background, but we don't want to go too muted because we want the colors on this one to pop. I probably would have chosen a different red and yellow to go with this green, but these are on my desk and they are nice vibrant colors, so we're going to get these ones to pop. So I am going to concentrate my color at the bottom, and then I'm just going to kind of dab it through as I start getting it ready to blend into the yellow. So I want to kind of soften that line and leave a little haze of red that will blend into yellow. And I can always come back and add more color if I need to. I'm going to keep my fingers clean in between because otherwise I really will make a mess. Keep this clean in between. All right, let's come in with some yellow. You can see my yellow is nice and juicy already, so I'm just going to come in here. You can see as I start overlapping that red, I'm getting a great blend down into the red. So that is looking really pretty. I am liking it. So I'm just going to try and fade that yellow up so we can blend it with the green. And let's switch colors, clean fingers, because I did get a fingerprint up there already, but I'm going to blend out with green so it won't matter too much. And my green foam is here. Okay, let's get some green going on. And because this is still wet and it's very saturated with ink, it might transfer to my fingers, so I'm going to hold it, but I'm going to be aware that that might transfer between if I move my fingers to touch something else. Another thing to do is to like put a piece of tape on your fingers to hold it down. Okay, I'm going to try and blend that into the yellow a little bit. Darken up the tip, and I think I want to add a little more yellow back into that zone. Don't put the yellow into the green. So there's probably enough ink already on my foam to kind of add a little bit more to blend that up. All right, I think that will do. That is quite pretty. I want to add some bling to this because we're going to make it a Christmas card. I will need to pull out a Christmas sentiment because I don't have one out. I mean, technically I did with that first project. Ooh, where'd it go? You're gonna hear me grunt and groan. So I did do this stamping with a metal embellishment that I was able to turn into a sentiment greeting. However, that is not my first choice. That was because it was part of that mystery box. So I will need to go and grab a sentiment soon. But we're going to wrap this up pretty quickly because this card is coming together nicely. I've got my card base. I haven't folded it yet. I want a gold pin. That's what I'm thinking. I want a gold pin and some gold splatter. Let's do it. All right, I am going to pull a gold splatter, a gold pen, and then I will get a sentiment out in a little bit. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to make some dots on here, and I'm going to start, because the shape of a Christmas ornament curves, the center of the curve is going to be the part that is closest to you visually, and I'm going to make my dot in the center of that closest part, that out bump of the curve. I'm going to make that dot larger, and then I'm going to make them smaller as they go around the curve. And that might give me a little bit of a 3D effect. I'm going to try. So that is my idea. So I am going to make that one large. And then a little smaller. I know it's a little hard to see what I'm doing. And then a little smaller. So we'll go on this side. I will show you close up here in a moment. And a little bit smaller, and a little bit smaller, and I have room for one more dot there. We'll do the same thing. Let me show you. Okay. That, ooh, do you see the shine? It's pretty. Okay, let's do the same thing up here. Ooh, the gold is not showing up as well on the green. Okay, pardon my head. I'm gonna have to do the old lady thing. Yeah, I'm gonna have to make it nice and thick because it's not showing up as well on the green. This is real crafting, folks, happening right here. And you can tell how old I am now from all of that. Yeah, it's definitely not showing up well on the green until it tips just right in the light. So when the recipient gets it, they'll be able to see some things when it tips in the light. So we'll do that. And then if I can hold it up for you, I can tip it in the light for you so you can see how it's looking. All right, let's add, I don't want to do everyone because that will take too long. Let's do one more on the right and one more on the left. And we'll just kind of make this one go a little bit faster because I don't need too much more detail in here. How about this side? And that side. And so do you guys have metallic gel pens in your stash? Do you use them? I'm curious. I know you'll probably be watching on replay. So you can always drop me a comment because I love reading comments and I always respond to them. So if you don't have metallic gel pens in your stash, it might be something you want to add because just a little bit of let me get the camera to focus, it can add just a little bit of flair to something that was pretty simple to start with. So that is that. Okay, I'm gonna keep that aside. I'm gonna set that up here because that was part of our mystery ingredient. I see some stray ink. Don't want to get that on everything. I am going to, oh, I can't get to my splatter box is over there. I better use it because otherwise it will be a disaster. Okay. I think I mentioned that I haven't been in this space for very long because I was in the basement. And that means that a lot of my things aren't quite finished being organized, including my splat box was way up high on a shelf that I had to stand on a chair to reach. Let's see if I can. I can't see my screen now because my monitor is being covered up by the splat box, but as you can see, I've used this basic cardboard box many times for this kind of thing. And here we go again. I'm gonna make sure the big drips go off, and I will come on as I start splatting so I don't get huge drips right in the middle. And then, let's see. If you don't have a sprayer like I do, you can use a paintbrush, of course, or the end of a pencil or a pen. Anything like that can add a little bit of splatter. And I am going to let that dry while I think about what's next. Okay, we need to make our card base. I am going to want to pull out a gel, like a Nuvo drop is what I use, a crystal clear Nuvo drop to cover this and give it some shine, and that will make it look more like an ornament. The last project I did with my Nuvo drops changed the color underneath because I had put it over the top of a gold Sharpie and it made it look more tarnished. So I'm really curious about how it's going to interact with these inks, especially since these inks can be a little water reactive, so it could bleed them and smear them. We're gonna find out. I'm letting that dry. I'm getting my card base folded. Gonna score that. Hold that. Now the question is, do I want to trim this? I do. I like to have borders. Even if I'm using the same color cardstock, it can give it a bit of a tone on tone layer, and that just adds one more little element to something that can help it stand out a little bit more. So I am going to want to trim that down, but it is wet now, so I might need to use the heat gun to do that. So while that dries a little bit naturally, I am going to grab my Nuvo drops, and I need a Christmas sentiment. I'll probably just look in my Lawn Fawn stash because there should be a Christmas sentiment in there. So hold please, I'll be right back. I'm gonna put you on mute so you don't hear all my grunting and groaning while I look for things. Oh, almost hit the wrong button. I almost stopped streaming. All right, I just found the first Christmas set I could from Lawn Fawn. And let's go ahead and heat emboss with some gold to a sentiment. I need another piece of paper. What do I want to do? What do I want to do? I'm thinking that my sentiment will go right across the middle of the trees. So let's take a little scrap of cardstock. We'll give it a little hint of color, and then we will heat emboss on top of that. And maybe I'm going to cut this down first and then I will stamp second, because that makes me feel like I can have a straighter sentiment. So Happy Christmas, Merry Christmas. I think I want it to be one long strip, so I am going to, let's see how, these need to be at least 1/2 inch. That side of my paper seems a little crooked. Let's go ahead and trim it off so it's nice and straight. Onto the floor that goes. And then there we go, nice and straight. And then I'll make it crooked with the stamping. I was going to add some color. You know, I can add the color after we heat emboss, because heat emboss will resist the color. So I'm going to pull out Merry Christmas, and I'm going to just line this up. I'm going to pull out my Misty so that, or actually, yes, in my Misty is the piece that I used to make Merry Christmas on that other project, and I had just adhered it to my Misty with some foam tape, and I used this metal embellishment to turn it into a stamp. So sometimes on these mystery box experimentations, we really have to get creative. So I had it easy tonight, you guys. I had it really easy tonight. Sometimes I get some wacky things. Like if you go back, I have a playlist of all my mystery box makes. And I had a Tim Holtz miniature Christmas mug that had Santa's face on it, and it was this little miniature mug, and I turned that thing into a wax seal. I poured out a puddle of wax and I stamped that Santa face right into the wax, and it worked. It worked. I made a wax seal out of that. So the reason I do this mystery box makes thing is, one, it's just fun to see what happens. It kind of reminds me of those cooking shows where they get their mystery boxes of ingredients and they have to cook up a project. So I am cooking up a craft project instead of a food project. And yeah, so it's fun just to see what happens. Plus, it can help you learn to look at your materials with a different eye, and you can find a little more flexibility with the supplies you already own, and get more creative. So if you're not used to doing that, then someone like me who experiments all the time can help you get started with these kind of ideas so that you can try them. And I have failed a lot at a lot of things, but I don't know how the saying goes, but there's no failures, there's only opportunities to learn, something along those lines, because you learn what works and what doesn't work, what you want to try again and modify, and what you want to give up on, because I have done that. But there are good reasons to do this kind of crazy project. So next step, nothing too complicated. We're just going to heat emboss gold sentiment here, and I'm hoping that I have enough magnet. Maybe not, because those magnets just stuck together. Okay, hoping I have enough magnet. Nope, I shifted everything. Okay, hoping I have enough magnet to keep all of that Yep. That's what I'm worried about. Don't want that to shift. You know what? I have side 2 if... Let's try this again. Let's try tucking another magnet. Because I can flip this over if it's not working. Okay, I'm not going to do it again because that's just going to give me more recipe for my sentiment to slip on me and look blurry. So it might already look blurry. We'll see. I did have my heat embossing already out from take 1 of this series, this evening's crafting. Okay, that looks all right. I forgot to use my anti-static powder, so there is a little bit of over powdering. I have a nice and pointy old paintbrush, so I just try to loosen it up and then carefully blow it away, and that will give me a better image. Let's see, I'm not gonna do this too much because you don't need to watch me do this all night, but I will try to clean up some of it. Okay, that's good enough. I think that is my motto. That's good enough. All right, I'm gonna mute you for a minute so you don't hear my heat gun, and then I will melt this up. Okay, that's looking pretty good. You can see the shine for sure, but not too much over powdering. I'm going to give it just a moment to cool, and then maybe I want to, you know what, I'm going to heat set this while I've got my tool warmed up. So let me make sure this is nice and dry. Okay, I do think that mostly set while we were doing other parts, but just in case, I'm going to take off 1/4 of an inch from each side. Trying to decide if I want to take off more from the bottom because I really like the top of the trees. Oh, I'm not sure what just fell down. Oh, I think it was my brush from the heat embossing. I'm going to cut off a lot of those little splatters, but that's okay. That's okay. I can always add more. I can always add more if I want more. Okay, let's take a look on the card base. You see how just adding that little border helps it feel more finished right away. So I really like borders for that reason. Okay, we're going to add this on here. Are we just up to assembly? I think maybe we are just ready to whack this on there. So what time is it? 7:30. We have, I think, just about hit that hour mark again. That's what I aim for these Mystery Box Lives. When I'm working on my own, I often can do more complicated techniques that take a lot longer, like that wax one did. And that wax one that I mentioned was quite a bugger because I almost started a fire because the wax that I was using is in a stick form with a wick on it, and that was causing problems, and it was just a mess. So I was really glad I was not live for that one because I could stay safe without it being embarrassed. But I'll tell you about it. All right, we've got our sentiment somewhere. There it is. I'm going to cut this down, and I think I cannot put you know what, I'm going to leave some space just in case. I wanted to add a fishtail. You know what, I will add the fishtail, and then I can cut it off if I feel like it's not working. So that's my little fishtail banner trick. If anybody doesn't know that one, you just cut a slit down the middle, and then from each corner you cut right up to that slit. And then I am going to cut carefully in between the words, trying to keep it as straight as possible. Do I want to make a fishtail on this side? Maybe. I'll go ahead and do it, and then I will cut it off. Again, like I said, if I don't like it, I'll just leave enough room that I can cut it off right next to the letter of the word Mary, but I might like that. All right, let's pop this up on some foam tape, which I have right here. I am going to just do one layer of foam tape, and then I will put my sentiments on 2 layers. That is just kind of how I roll with these things, because I like the sentiment to stand out the most, because that is the message of the card and why I'm sending the card in the first place. So even though we have these beautiful elements going on, I really do want the sentiment to be the most important part. All right, this is gonna make a sticky mess, but I'm gonna trim these corners off just a little bit so that it will fit on the shape of I think I got it. All right, we're gonna hang that with the embossing texture. It's not popping up enough. We're gonna add another layer, and then we'll triple up our sentiment. Okay, I know you're watching me cut foam tape, but sometimes that's what you need. That's what the project needs. So before I take off that extra layer of sticky, or protective back from the sticky, I can cut it down to fit first, because that makes it easier. Okay, I didn't take off the release tape. I wonder if I did the same thing with that bottom one. I probably did not take off the release tape. Oh, and now it's stuck to my fingernail. Good, good. Gotta get all of the mess happening. Okay, and sure enough, I did not take off that release tape. And I'll get that on there. Okay, I only bent it a little bit. All right, now I think that is better. Thinking about design, I've got a border which helps hold everything in, keeps the eye kind of inside of everything. I've got this very bright, bold element that I want to drop down because I'm going to dangle it, like I mentioned, with some twine. And then I am going to put my sentiment. Oh, I was going to add some color to this. I didn't do that yet. I want to kind of offset from my main element just a little bit with the sentiment. So I want to hang this down here. There we go. I like having the double foam on there. I was going to add a little color with my dauber. I'm going to take off excess ink because I just want to Just kind of a little ombre color. It doesn't have to be a lot. Let's just add a little color. And because that heat embossing resists the ink, we don't have to worry about it covering up. And I'm just going to add a little pop of color to the edges to help it stand out off the background, because we've got cream cardstock on top of the cream background. I know we added color to that background, but it is all pretty mellow color, so it's really easy for things to just kind of blend in a lot. So inking edges is one thing that helps stuff pop. And whether or not I should have added the green to this, who knows? Maybe I should have just added the inked edge, because it might blend in a little too much like that. Okay, let's get this up on some foam, and I was going to triple this one. Oh, I've never tripled the foam adhesive before. Let's peel off this part. So I just folded it in half, peeled off this part. I'm not sure where this particular adhesive is from. It might be from Tailored Expressions, or it might be from scrapbook.com. I don't remember. Usually I will write somewhere on the inside of the roll where it came from so I can reference that, but I did not do that this time. Okay, I'm gonna cut a small piece for, oop, got my finger, oh no. I haven't done that in a long time. Trying not to bleed on camera. All right, let's get that on there, and we'll get this one on here. We'll go ahead and, oop, I've got some mess on there. Go ahead and tuck this over near our focal. And we'll get the Mary. I do like the fishtails. I do like them. And it kind of makes it more cohesive when each one, especially since I cut the sentiment apart, it makes it a little more cohesive that they start and end with a fishtail to kind of start and end the sentiment. All right, that is looking fantastic. I wanted some twine to hang that. I have a very specific twine in mind, and when I was looking for it earlier, I could not find it, so I am just going to use this twine in place for now, but I will swap it out because the twine I'm thinking of has some gold fibers in it, and I know I used it recently, but I couldn't find it when I was looking for it earlier today. So I am going to do this, but I will temporarily adhere this down with, let's just grab that temporary adhesive, and I'm just gonna, I've seen other people do this, but I haven't actually done this, so let's see if it works. I'm just gonna run this over the end of my fiber. I'm gonna tuck that under there. And then I'm just gonna put a little bit, and I will tuck that up there, and then I will I will use an adhesive eraser to take off the extra adhesive, and I'm gonna tie a teeny tiny bow. If you've never done this before, I make a loop, and then I make another loop, and leave some space in the middle so that you can cross the loops over and still get through that space in the middle. And then I try to pull my tail tight, or pull my tail so it doesn't get lost as I pull my ears tight of that little, you know, rabbit ear loop-de-loop. And then I can size, and I'm going to trim those down. Oh, that one doesn't work very well with fiber. So again, temporary adhesive. We'll stick that on there. And there we go. Oh, I was going to put this on. I will stick my bow a little bit off the edge for now, because when I put this on, it's going to act like a glue, so I don't want to get that on this temporary bow. I want to be able to change that bow up. So this is Nuvo Drops. Like I said, it's called Morning Dew. It's not crystal clear. It's called Morning Dew. And I really like it because if you spread it thin enough on your project, it just adds a glassy shine to things. And it's a little bit self-leveling, so it's gonna look kind of a mess when I first put it on, but it will smooth out as it dries overnight. And I do let this dry overnight so that has plenty of time. I do, like I said, want to be a little bit careful about it reactivating the ink underneath. Yeah. I left it sitting right side up too long. I usually store mine upside down so that all of the product flows to the tip and it's ready to go when I want to use it. But because I pulled it out and left it sitting upright, it is not all at the tip how it usually would be. Okay, so you can see, if I can get it to focus, you can see that little bit of red is starting to attach to my tip, so I'm going to wipe that off on, you know what, I'm just going to use my rag. I just send these rags through the wash, and a little bit of gluey stuff will be okay in the wash. And I want to kind of even out any splotchy spaces. And I will post this card to the community tab tomorrow once it's completely dry, and hopefully by then I will have that twine that I want to add on here, and then it will be beautiful. So let's take a look at this. Pardon the mess, but you're crafters, you know how messy things can get. And that's not working. I'm just going to leave it. All right, let's take a final look at this card. And I tell you, that makes me super happy. It is so pretty. The products that I got out of this mystery box I will be keeping because I think they are beautiful. Sometimes they're not, and I just send them on to Goodwill. But you never know what you're going to get, and that's part of what makes this project so fun. So I'm going to switch back to my face here so that we can say goodnight. It got dark behind me while I was crafting, so we are now well into the evening. Hopefully it's not too late in your neck of the woods, but if you're catching me on replay, it can be whatever time of day you would like it to be. So thank you for being here. I know you have lots of ways to spend your time, and it is a true compliment that you are spending it here with me. So with that, I will see you soon, and until then, I hope you have an artful day. Ooh, I'm not on camera. There we go. Good night, everybody.